Reverend Will Ryan. We're coming to you now with our midweek devotion. My wife and I have this hill in our backyard. We bought a house, and the hill was in this sort of state of disrepair. It was pretty feral, and according to our neighbors, there were a couple of reasons for this. The previous owner had a habit of trying to mow it with a riding lawnmower, only for the mower to overturn dangerously. And then another neighbor took it upon himself to cut down, instead of just cut back, most of the cedar trees that gave the hill and the yard some shade, some privacy, and then the city had to cut the rest down because it was impeding some power lines. Combine that with the presence of wild grapevine and honeysuckle. What was left was, as I said, like a feral piece of land, that housed way too much clay soil for an Iowa boy like me who's used to black earth. I really didn't know what to do with it. It was beyond my expertise. So my wife and I committed ourselves to removing any invasive species and planting wildflowers and native plants. Since the hill can't really be safely mowed, I have to use a weed whacker. Why not just return it to Missouri plants? So each year we've bought and planted more and more and more. We're not where we want to be, but it's a process and we're getting there. The growth of a plant itself is a process, but so too of a garden, wildflower or not. Hannah and I are doing our part, planting and weeding and watering, but at the end of the day, the success of it really isn't up to us. It's out of our hands. This metaphor of gardening is a tried and true one when it comes to faith, especially when we try to pass on the faith to others. Jesus used the parable of the sower, the guy who threw seed and it landed in different places. When it comes to gardening, we can do most of the things, we think at least. We can, even when it comes to faith too, do most of the things we think at least. Pray, read scripture, worship, serve others, sing hymns and songs, but eventually our efforts end and God takes center stage. We can do all the right things or think we're doing all the right things. But if God is not there to sink those roots deep into the soil, then nothing is going to happen. It's also a dose of humility for me. Paul said, neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but the only one who is anything is God who makes it grow. It's 1 Corinthians 1, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 7. Any good work I do as a pastor, or any of us as a Christian for that matter, is simply a reflection on the one who forgives and redeems us. We are but God's tools in this great garden of the world. Assuredly, we all have a role, we all have a job, and we all have gifts to share, but even these are given to us by God. Now, it's nice and warm and sunny here, and I'm gearing up to resume the gardening work on the hill, but I do so with the understanding that it's not all up to me. In fact, most of it is not up to me. Without God, ain't nothing going to grow on that hill. And one of the interesting things is, though, some wildflowers have started popping up in places that I didn't expect them to, like in the middle of the yard where I can mow and my kids play and my dog goes. We had black-eyed Susan just popping up out of nowhere. God does that sometimes too. Faith pops up in strange places where we least expect. I hope you heard a word of grace in this midweek devotion. It's not all up to us. God's going to do God's part. And to that, we can take solace. I can share this with someone who you think needs to hear it, but we will catch you later. God be with you.